Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm lauranemacquart and today I'm going to talk about the books that I've read in the first half of May. Two are for Invisible Cities, so I'll only be brief about them now, at least I'll try to, and I'll talk about them more in another video. So the first book that I want to talk about briefly now is one that I read for Barbados, even though Barbados is an Invisible Cities country that we'll only get to in May, but it fit in my schedule to do it now. So I read Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, and it was a short listen. I think it was only about 6, maybe 7 hours, and it is about a woman called Pama who gets a chaos stick. So this book is in magic realism / bit of fantasy, and with this chaos stick, the stick has power that makes sure that she can, things that will happen that have a small chance of happening, she can increase that chance basically. And the power that the stick has been taken away from a supernatural creature called a Jombe. There are multiple Jombe, they're kind of influencing our world. And he wants his power back because it was taken away from him, and he's not happy about that. So he's going to go after her and make sure that she gives it back to him. I really liked this. I liked the Jombe aspect of it. I liked the characters also, but you will hear about it more in my Invisible Cities video that I will film once I have also made food for these two countries. So the second country that I've read is Madagascar. So for Madagascar I read the French book Elle au printemps by Michele Rakotson. I don't know if you can see, not that the cover is anyway fantastic. Again, a very short book, I think only 150 pages, and it's about a young woman, or maybe a girl, I don't know. I wasn't sure if she was 18 or a little bit older, but she decides to go away from Madagascar to Paris, or at least to France, to further her studies. And she's supposed to be picked up from the airport by a pen friend that she has, but that friend doesn't come. And this book is about her discovering France in those first few months that can be very, very harsh. Again, really like this one, but you'll hear more about it in my next video. As for books that I didn't read for Invisible Cities, and I will therefore talk about now, I wanted to start with Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Ekwuyasi. I really like this one. It's kind of a difficult one to talk about because there are many things going on. It's mainly about a twin and their mother, Tende and Kende. And their mother, I can't remember her name, but something happens to the twins when they are 12. A small time after their father passed away, and that influences their relationship a lot. They don't talk basically to one another. Well, Tende tries to talk to Kende, but Kende is not really interested, and therefore Tende goes to Britain to study and Kende ends up going to Canada, and you kind of see their lives for a couple of years still feeling this pain. You can feel that there's something missing in their lives, that they have this very raw, hurting thing that kind of still does influence them, but it influences them in different ways. Kende kind of becomes small and stays focused on herself and on her pain, where Tende is more extrovert about her pain, and her pain leads to her sleeping with a lot of women, for example, and both are trying to lead their lives but still having this pain. And I really liked the rawness of their emotions. So both are leading their lives, but you can feel that there's this thing that's missing, and you know quite early on, I think, in the book what happened. But yeah, I really like that aspect. And then the mothers, we also get the story of the mother. The mother is actually kind of a supernatural being. I didn't expect this magic realism part to the book, but you also get her story when she is growing up and meeting the man of her life, the love of her life I mean, and then getting these twins and what happens when her husband then passes away. I really like the way that these stories all really intermingled, and the pain that you could feel, as I said. I really like that the characters also had other things going for them. So Tende, for example, is a cook, and I liked her relationship with food. There are a lot of recipes and moments where people are cooking or eating in the book, which was wonderful, and I got hungry every time that I listened, and I would love to try jollof rice and all of the other dishes in the book, basically. And Kende, on the other hand, she's an artist. I think she paints. So I like that there was more to them. The only negative that I had with this book is that there is a lot of switching around timelines and point of views. So if you don't like that, I would steer clear of it. Although I mean, it was completely fine to follow it. I was aware of what was going on, even though I'm not sure whether Tende went to Canada in the end or not. But yeah, you might want to be aware of that. There's also trigger warnings, I have to say, for rape of a minor, and also a trigger warning for miscarriage, so you might want to be aware of that. I had also one other negative. I don't really know how I feel about this. So in this book, it's mainly about this relationship between these twins, or their lack of relationship, and the feelings that they have and the effect of that on their lives. But there were also a lot of other things going on. So we've got the story of the mother, we've got a couple of side characters who influence their lives, and I'm not sure whether these extra layers really added something to the book. They did make sure on the one hand that the characters felt really well-rounded and that there was more to the book than just their pain, but I like this rawness of this emotion, and I wonder whether taking away those extra little things, or the ending, for example, and a pregnancy here, a relationship there, whether that would have, you know, sometimes less is more. And I don't know whether with this one it was the case. I like this book so much that I would like to reread it without those things, to see if they really add to it. Now that is not possible, so I will have to reread it at some point and see if those things add to it or not, whether they are just extra layers that now, because I was focused on the pain, I didn't really appreciate, or I didn't really see what they were adding. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Now, another book that I read is the Makioga Sisters by Tanizaki. This is a Japanese classic, and I was initially going to read it in January for Invisible Cities for Japan, but the book didn't arrive, and then it was a little bit big, so I kept pushing it. I have a little bit conflicted feelings about this. So first of all, what is it about? It is about the Makioga sisters. There are 4 sisters. The 2 elder ones are married, and they have a husband and they have children, etc. And the 2 younger ones are not. And one of the storylines is that they are trying to find a husband for the 3rd sister. So the Makioka family is an aristocratic family, but they don't have money anymore. They have kind of fallen from grace, but they're still trying to lead this life with all of the traditions and all of the rules that they're trying to follow. So the way in which I really found it interesting to see how they're trying to find the mechanisms in place to find a husband for this 3rd sister. And the 4th sister, the 3rd sister is very much representative of old Japan. She's very quiet, she's not outspoken, but she is very strong. And the 4th sister is the opposite. She's representing modern Japan. She wears Western clothes, she has her own enterprise, she has a relationship with a man, she's been in this relationship for years, and they're waiting for the 3rd sister to be married before she can finally officially have this relationship with this man. And the story is mainly told from the point of view of the 2nd sister, because the 2 younger sisters, they're supposed to live with the elder one. I could tell you the names, but I think it's only going to confuse you, so I'm going to say 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So the elder sister, she is supposed to take care of her 2 younger sisters, or her husband is, but they kind of hate her husband. He's not doing things in the way that they want to, so they spend all of their time with the 2nd sister, even when the 1st sister kind of moves away. And that brings tension in the family. There's tension because the 4th sister is not leading this normal life, and therefore there's tension because the 4th sister is not leading this normal life, and therefore the other sisters feel that that puts pressure on them, or that the society doesn't have the image of them that they want it to have, etc, etc, etc. So it's very interesting, but it's still very soft-spoken book. The drama is not out there. the drama between the sisters, I mean. There are big parts of this that are very slow going, that you really get the atmosphere. Oh yeah, you can film now, blah blah blah. I shouldn't complain, he's repairing my bike. So you really get the atmosphere of Japan in the years before the Second World War and what it was like in such an aristocratic family. It was slow, but it was very nice to read. But then we would have the other sections, and that is where I'm conflicted about this book, that were overly dramatic, that didn't feel like they fitted with the rest of the book. We've got a sudden flood out of nowhere. I know this is part of weather in Japan, but still it felt like it was not at the same pace. It was not fitting with the rhythm of the rest of the book. We've got also another character that suddenly gets very sick and stuff happens. There were just a few of these things that it was like, you know, you're floating along a nice little river, blah blah, and waterfall. Okay, go back, floating along the little river, waterfall. Maybe I should do my waterfall like this. But yeah, and that made that I'm not really sure what I think of this book, because on the one hand the slow parts might have been a little bit too slow, but I liked it. It was nice. And then these extra things, I don't mind what was happening. I mean, it did make sure that some things shifted in relationships or whatnot, but they were so brusque. Is brusque a word? It is in French and in Dutch. Abrupt. Yeah, I just would have liked that a little bit different, but otherwise I really appreciated this. It was a little bit big, but the end papers are beautiful. This edition in general is very pretty, I thought. So yeah, that is the Makioga Sisters. Now for the last book, I read this one yesterday, basically in the morning, and that is The Dry by Jane Harper. I previously read The Lost Man by her. Loved that, and I finally got my hands on this one. This is a library book. It's a mystery, thrillery, detective-y kind of book, and it is set in the Australian outback. And the reason that I loved her previous book is the reason I also love this one. It is because the setting of the Australian outback and the tensions that it brings with it is painted wonderfully. So the story is that a family has been killed, and we don't know whether it is the father who killed everybody because he went stir crazy because there's a drought going on, and that brings a lot of tension to this rural setting. People don't know whether they are going to survive, basically, and he went stir crazy, killed his wife, killed his eldest son, and didn't kill the baby because at that point he got doubts. But a friend of his goes to the funeral. He has left this city because stuff happened 20 years earlier, involving him, involving also then the man that died, and involving also a young girl that people don't know whether she committed suicide or whether they were involved. So he goes back, and he does work for the police, but he works for the financial department, and there are some questions, and he decides to dive into it with the local policeman. And in this town, the community is kind of close-knit on the one hand because it's a very rural setting. There are not a lot of people, therefore you know everybody. And you are, because of the environment, people have to be able to rely upon one another, because otherwise they simply don't survive. But because of all the tension that there is, because survival is a lot more difficult, people are very wound up. There is a lot of tension. There are rivalries that go on for decades, and so there's a lot of things going on in this village, with the relationship between people, stuff from the past that people do or do not know about. I really like this. It's fast-paced, I would say. I don't know, I have no idea what fast-paced is anymore. Every time I say on Storygraph that I think something is fast-paced or normal-paced, I see that other people say it's slow-paced, so But yeah, the atmosphere is brilliant, and I would highly recommend it. I do think I prefer The Lost Man, but still this one was brilliant, and I kind of want to own it now. Anyway, those were the books that I've read in the first half of May. I wasn't going to film this video because up until 2 days ago I had only read 2 books, but then I kind of read 3 in 2 days, and even though 2 are for Invisible Cities, I thought it was enough to do this video. I'd love to hear from you if you've read any of these books. I also wonder what you have been reading in the first half of May or in the past couple of weeks. I have the impression that there's a lot of people that are feeling a little bit meh, and I wonder whether the whole pandemic situation has got to do with it, that we're all kind of tired and we miss doing the extra things that bring us energy. Anyway, would love to hear how you're doing. See you in another video. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.